There is something inside you that you have never been able to fully name, a quiet tension between what you show the world and what you actually feel when no one is watching. You may have believed this tension would eventually disappear, that if you just explained yourself a little better, shared a little more, the right person would finally understand you. But it is still there. And here is the question almost no one thinks to ask. What if that tension is not a problem to solve, but a signal pointing you towards something much deeper than words could ever reach? Carl Jung spent his entire life studying what human beings do with what they cannot say, what they carry without naming it, what they desperately try to express without ever finding the exact words. What he discovered may fundamentally change the way you understand your own silence, and more than that, the way you understand yourself. You grew up in a world that treats expression as a virtue above almost everything else. Talking about yourself is presented as courage, as transparency, as the modern definition of authenticity. You were taught, directly or indirectly, that keeping things to yourself was a sign of weakness, a dangerous withdrawal from the people who care about you. So you talked. You explained your wounds, shared your plans, revealed your doubts, and offered your most fragile dreams to eyes that were not always prepared to receive them with the gentleness and care they truly deserved. And something strange happened every single time. The energy behind what you were carrying quietly disappeared. Not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly, like a flame being extinguished by a current of air you never saw coming. Jung called this a psychic leak. Every time you project outward what has not yet been consolidated inward, you drain the very force that was building it. This is not a poetic metaphor. It is a deep psychological reality that most people never recognize in their own lives. Consider someone going through a period of genuine inner transformation. For months, they struggle privately, questioning old habits, inherited beliefs, the entire story they have been telling themselves about who they are. Then one day, something shifts, a fragile clarity, a barely visible direction, something that feels real but is not yet solid. So they talk about it, to friends, to family, to anyone willing to listen. They try to explain what they are feeling, what they are becoming, what they are beginning to see. And gradually, without understanding why, that clarity fades, the old doubts return, the momentum disappears as if it was never there to begin with. This is not the fault of the people around them. It is the result of a psychological law Jung described throughout his entire body of work, the law of preserving inner energy. What is still forming needs darkness to consolidate. It needs silence to become fully real. Jung described the individuation process as an essentially solitary journey, not because other people are dangerous, but because authentic transformation cannot happen under the constant observation of others. It requires a return to what he called the self, that deep dimension of the psyche that exists beneath the social mask every single one of us wears. That mask Jung named the persona. It is the identity you have carefully constructed to be accepted, recognized, and understood by the world around you. It is not inherently false, it serves a real social function, but it becomes a psychological trap the moment you confuse it with who you actually are underneath all of it. And every time you over-explain, overshare, and frantically search to be understood, you reinforce that persona at the expense of your deeper truth. You build a narrative for others instead of living an experience for yourself. There is a concept in Jungian psychology that very few people talk about openly: the hidden richness of the shadow. The shadow is not what is wrong with you. It is what you rejected, concealed, and judged unworthy of being seen. And paradoxically, that is often where your greatest untapped strength lives. Silence is not a retreat into the shadow. It is an honest invitation to meet it without an audience, without external pressure, without the constant need to justify what you find there. If this exploration is already touching something in you, if these words are describing an experience you have lived but never been able to articulate, then this channel was built precisely for you. Subscribe right now, because every video on this channel will take you deeper into this understanding of yourself, and what you discover over the coming weeks may permanently change the way you see who you are. Let us return to that tension you carry every day. It usually comes from a fundamental confusion between two very different needs: the need to be heard and the need to be truly understood. These things are not the same. Being heard belongs to the surface of human connection. It is a need for social validation, a confirmation that you exist in the eyes of those around you. Being understood belongs to a depth that very few relationships can actually reach.
Because understanding someone completely would require having lived exactly what they lived, carrying exactly the weight they carry. And that almost never happens. So you reach for being heard, hoping it will give you the feeling of being understood. And that confusion exhausts you, because you are chasing something that words alone can never provide. Jung wrote that whoever looks outside dreams, and whoever looks inside awakens. That sentence holds something essential about the true nature of silence. Silence is not passive. It is not simply the absence of something. It is a form of conscious attention turned inward, a deliberate awareness directed at what is happening inside you rather than at what others think of you at every moment. In that inner space, something begins to shift. You stop reformulating your pain to make it acceptable to outside observers. You begin to look at it as it actually is, without decoration, without apology, without the mediation of anyone else's judgment. And it is there, in that direct encounter with your own lived experience, that real transformation begins. Not because you finally found the right words to describe what you feel, but because you stopped looking in words for a solution to what can only be resolved through fully lived inner experience. There is a particular discipline within silence that Jung associated with genuine psychological maturity. It is not the ability to hold everything inside indefinitely. It is the wisdom to discern what deserves to be shared, with whom, and at precisely which moment. Most people share too early and with too many people at once. They announce their plans before those plans are rooted in solid conviction. They expose their wounds before those wounds have stabilized enough to withstand scrutiny. They declare their transformation before it has actually completed itself. And in that premature movement outward, they deprive themselves of the inner consolidation they needed most in order to truly move forward. Think about the way a seed functions beneath the surface of the earth. It does not grow because someone is watching it or encouraging it out loud. It does not need an audience to become what it was always meant to be. It grows because it is protected, nourished in darkness, sheltered from everything that could weaken it before it is ready to face the light. You are that seed at certain decisive moments in your life, and silence is the soil that allows you to develop roots strong enough to withstand whatever the world sends your way next. When you begin choosing silence consciously, something unexpected happens in how you relate to others. You become more present in every exchange, not because you speak less, but because you listen differently, with a quality of attention you simply could not offer before. You are no longer preparing your next response while the other person is still speaking. You are no longer calculating how to be understood in the next conversation. You are simply there, attentive, grounded, inhabited by a stable interiority that no one can take from you. Jung wrote that the encounter with oneself is one of the most unsettling and most necessary experiences a human being can go through. That encounter cannot happen in the constant noise of permanent self-expression. It requires an interior space cleared not of ideas, but of unending social performance. A space where you no longer have to be a particular version of yourself for anyone else. And in that space, you discover something that years of explanation could never have revealed to you. You discover that you do not need to be understood in order to be at peace. You discover that your deep worth does not depend on how many people can grasp the complexity of what you are going through. You discover that real freedom does not arrive when others finally understand you, but when you stop making your inner equilibrium conditional on their understanding. This is one of the most liberating realizations the individuation process can produce in a human life, and it always arrives in silence, never in noise. Some people will mistake your calm for distance. Some will read your discretion as a lack of depth or openness. Let them. What you are building in that silence does not belong to them. It belongs entirely to you, and that belonging is precisely what gives it its full value. What has not been submitted to outside judgment remains intact. What has not been diluted by the need for collective approval remains genuinely powerful. Jung spoke of the transcendent function, the remarkable capacity of the psyche to integrate opposites and reach a higher level of consciousness. And one of the most fundamental opposites you must learn to hold is the one between the natural human need for expression and the rarer wisdom of knowing when to be still. This is not a one-time definitive choice. It is not a rigid rule to follow mechanically for the rest of your life. It is a permanent inner dance between what needs to be spoken and what needs to remain silent in order to stay alive. And learning to move within that dance is one of the most profoundly human and genuinely rare things you can develop. You have begun to understand something today that many people spend entire lifetimes without grasping. Silence is not the absence of courage. It is not withdrawal. It is an emotional and psychological intelligence that chooses depth over permanent visibility, that chooses real transformation over the performance of transformation.